KPVIDEONEWS, y'all. It's time for what? KPVIDEONEWS, y'all. KPVIDEONEWS, y'all.
That's right, it's time for KP Video News. And wow, man, I mean, the hits just keep on coming. They just keep on coming. And the deputies, sheriff deputies in LA County fatally shoot a black man in LA who dropped a gun from a bundle. In Los Angeles, a black man who deputies said was stopped for riding his bicycle in violation of vehicle codes. Riding a bike while black, I tell you, was fatally shot when he dropped a bundle of items that included a gun, authorities said, setting off a protest march to a nearby sheriff's station in Los Angeles. Sheriff Lieutenant Bratton Dean said the specific violations were not known, and Dean said investigators had not yet interviewed the deputies, but he gave this account. When deputies tried to stop the man, he dropped his bike and ran. When they caught up to him, he punched one of them in the face and dropped a bundle of clothes he was carrying. The deputy spotted a handgun in the bundle and opened fire. So he dropped the bundle's on the ground, and they saw a handgun on the bundle, and they opened fire. Wow. Let me say that again. The deputy spotted the guy, they chased the guy, he dropped a bundle of clothes he was carrying. The deputy spotted a handgun in the bundle and opened fire. Let that sink in. And he was in possession of a firearm. No, he wasn't. He dropped the firearm. He didn't have it any longer. The gun was on the ground. So anyway, family members at the scene identified the dead man as DIJON Kizzee, 29 years old. But the sheriff's department said it could not immediately confirm his identity. Police said the handgun was recovered with no deputies were injured. And the news helicopter showed the gun nearby the body. Yeah. Protesters gathered and more than 100 people marched to a sheriff's station. Some chanted, "Say his name and no justice, no peace." And neighborhood residents, Orlando Gibbons, 68, questioned why deputies fired at the man who, according to the sheriff's deputy, wasn't holding a weapon. If he reached down to grab it, that's different, Gibbons stated. But if it's on the ground, why shoot? That means he was unarmed. Dean, in the Monday afternoon press conference, said investigators had not yet interviewed witnesses or reviewed any surveillance or cell phone video. Give us time to conduct our investigation, he said. We'll get all the facts, he said, of this case, and we'll eventually present them, he said. The sheriff's department said multiple independent investigations began at the scene, and Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors is set to vote Tuesday on to fund a body-worn camera program for the sheriff's department. And Sheriff Villanueva has feuded with the supervisors in recent months and repeatedly called them to approve the money for the body cameras. They need to have those body cameras, man. Gotta have them. Gotta have them. You know. So this is a slight update here I'm getting ready to do now. But it's really crazy, man. Oh, come on, man. I mean, Cass, you can't even ride a bike now without you riding a bike and you end up getting murdered. They had something similar to that happen in Vegas last year, where a guy was riding a bike and the police pinned him on the ground and ended up choking him and killing him like they did George Floyd. Smothered the man to death, and then his family has a lawsuit against the Las Vegas Police Department for the same thing. Riding a bike while black, jogging while black. Wow. That's just crazy, man. Crazy. So Breonna Taylor's ex was offered a plea deal to say that she was part of a crime syndicate. The family's attorney states, allegedly, for months, as Breonna Taylor has risen to nationwide prominence as a symbol of racial injustice and police impunity, her name uttered by crowds of demonstrators and top politicians, her face appearing on banners, basketball jerseys, and magazine covers, Louisville prosecutors have continued to prosecute her ex-boyfriend, and who was suspected drug trafficking led to her to raid her apartment and fatally shoot her. And let me, excuse me, hold on one second. The family's lawyers have insisted she had nothing to do with Jamarcus Glover's alleged crimes. With little evidence against her and no previous criminal record, they say she was only pulled into the case through her ties with Glover, whom she had cut off before her killing. Yet in July, Louisville prosecutors worked up a draft of a plea bargain with this offer for Glover if the two-time convicted convict said Taylor had participated in his organized crime syndicate, according to court records, that he could see a possible 10-year sentence turn into only probation. Wow. Wow, man. That is something. And that's her ex-boyfriend. That's not even the guy that was at the house. That's not even the guy that was at the house when she was killed. So, wow. Man, that is crazy, man. That is crazy. Yet, in July, but that's what it was, man. So, Sam Aguilar, a Louisville attorney representing the Taylor family, said in a wrongful death lawsuit, slammed the offer as part of a smear campaign. He said that the offer shows local officials are desperate to justify Taylor's killing and paint a picture of her which was vastly different than the woman truly was. Shame on that office, Aguilar wrote, and she's dead. Way to try to attack a woman when she's not even here to defend herself. Tom Wine, the Jefferson County Commonwealth attorney, argued that the offer was only brought up during negotiations and never formally drafted into any actual plea deals. Our office has not and does not posthumously indict any person who is deceased, Wine said in a statement Monday. When I was advised of the discussions, I directed that Breonna Taylor's name be removed. So you just lied. You stated that you don't do that. However, you saying that her name, you directed them to remove her name from the paperwork. So which one is it? Either you did or you didn't. Glover, 30 years old, who has vouched for Taylor's innocence, failed to show up to court to accept any plea deal. But news of the offer is nonetheless likely to inflame tensions as Glover's case, and by proxy, the events that led up to Taylor's killing, continues to make its way through the courts, and protesters continue demanding accountability. By now, the details of what happened to Ms. Taylor on March 13th are well established. A young emergency room technician and aspiring nurse, she and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, this was her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, the guy they tried to cut a deal with was Glover, her ex-boyfriend that was involved in a bunch of madness. And what was his name again? Jamarcus Glover. They had long since cut their relationship off. She was dealing with another guy. So, wow. Glover, like I said, back to what I said, Glover, and by now the details of what happened to Taylor on March 13th are well established, and a young emergency room technician and 3 plainclothes officers, Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove, all white, had entered on a no-knock search warrant. The Louisville Courier-Journal reported after Walker let off one shot, fearing the police were intruders, the officers responded with more than 20, including multiple that hit Taylor and killed her. Less examined in the accounts has been Glover's role. He and Taylor had been seeing each other intermittently for years, according to the report, and she paid or arranged bail for him several times and remained in contact with Glover as he was secretly surveilled by police. The GPS trackers on Glover's car showed him visiting her apartment, and police showed her at a suspected drug house. After he was arrested in the hours following Taylor's death, he told several people in calls from jail that he had left thousands of dollars at her home, according to the Courier-Journal. Still, Aguilar, as well as many activist leaders and the Kentucky American Civil Liberties Union, said police lacked enough evidence to conduct a raid on Taylor's apartment complex, especially with the no-knock warrant. When they did enter her residence, critics have said police failed to follow key protocols, such as staging an ambulance nearby that could have saved her. Breonna Taylor's death was a tragedy. Scott Barton, a defense attorney representing Glover, said prosecutors had given him several plea offers, including one mentioning Taylor. He stated, though the most recent officer did not. But Aguilar, who had previously accused Louisville police of going to great lengths to dig up Taylor's past, said the plea fell in a larger pattern. As part of the July 13th offer, Glover would have had to attest that through late April, he and several co-defendants, including Taylor, trafficked large quantity of drugs in the Louisville community. Wine has denied Taylor would ever have been listed as a co-defendant. Contrary to Aguilar's post on social media, he said Taylor was never mentioned as a co-defendant in court records or an official plea deal to Glover. The document shared was only a pre-negotiation draft. But it was still on there, though. But Glover, who was last arrested on Thursday, stated that Taylor was not involved in selling drugs. In one jailhouse call, he said police had no business looking for him at her house. At the end of the day, I know she didn't. I know she did nothing to deserve none of this, he stated. And I know that's all because they basically record every phone call you make, so they got that. And then, okay, so here's the other story I was talking about, jogging while black. It is jogging while black. The San Antonio police admit they wrongfully arrested a black jogger. And Matthias Ometu, a 33-year-old black man from Texas, was violently arrested by San Antonio police while he was out jogging when he was mistaken for an armed suspect. Can't jog, folks. Black people can't jog. The police were apparently searching for a suspect who had been involved in a felony family violence call nearby when they found Ometu, who was jogging. Ometu refused to provide his name and birth date, which is legal in Texas law if a person is not operating a motor vehicle or arrested at the time. An argument ensued before the police handcuffed Ometu. He told them to get into the patrol car. Police said Ometu became aggressive and kicking them during arrest, and the victim eventually arrived at the scene and confirmed that Ometu was not the man who assaulted her. Meanwhile, the police claimed the suspect who fled the scene was wearing a bright green shirt and shorts, as relayed by witnesses in the video encounter with the police. And Ometu can be seen wearing a green t-shirt and shorts. Ometu was taken to San Antonio Municipal Court and was charged with 2 counts of assaulting an officer. And so they admit they wrongfully arrested a black jogger. So they had, but you still arrested him though. You still arrested him. It's like you going back to that same thing, like, oh, they all look alike. And Ronnie Long, who was 19 years old when an all-right jury wrongfully convicted him of raping a white woman. Now, after 44 years of fighting for his freedom, he will finally be released from prison. The state of North Carolina filed a motion with the Fourth Circuit this morning asking that it immediately issue a mandate in Ronnie Long's case. The state said it would ask the district court to enter a writ vacating Ronnie's conviction. In short, Ronnie Long is coming home. And Lau said his lawyer, Jamie Lau, said Long is grateful, overwhelmed, and looks forward to reuniting with his loved ones. His freedom, however, is mixed with a bit of sadness, since he wouldn't be able to reunite with his mother, Elizabeth Long, who he hoped to see her son, a free man, but already died on July 11th. Wow, she just died a couple of months in July. In 1976, Long was charged with trespassing and was called to the court, where he was also accused of rape, Lau said in an interview. And it's like, okay, and they said in an interview, the Clay Kane showed that the victim, who died in 2016, pointed Long as the rapist because he was the only one in the courtroom that looked remotely similar to the person who had attacked her. The victim also allegedly told authorities at the first that the attacker was yellow and didn't have any facial hair. Long, however, is a dark-skinned man and had a beard and a mustache. None of the 43 fingerprints collected from the rape scene matched Long's fingerprints at all. Still, he was convicted by an all-white jury, and he did not win any of his appeals. Last May, North Carolina Judge James Wynn slammed the case by saying prosecutors clearly had evidence that any defense counsel in the world, not only in 1976 but in the history of this country, would have wanted or needed, and which should have been supplied, and yet did not provide it. So it's like, wow, man, he got a guy, man, that was like 44 years in prison, convicted by an all-white jury, Concord, North Carolina, over in Carolina, man. All that time he wasted. That's a whole lifetime. 44 years, that's a whole lifetime. You know, you got people that don't even live to be 30, and like, wow, his life is shambles, man. His mother just died in April, so he didn't even get a chance to go to his mother's funeral and get a chance to, you know, hold his mother and say goodbye. And that's how things happen. This is where we are today. This is where we are today, folks. Wake up and realize what's going on. Realize it and understand it. So, you know, you gotta have your head on straight these days. You gotta have your eyes open, and you can't get involved in this stupidity that's going on in this world today, because that's exactly what it is. Nothing but stupidity.
Right. KP's Video News, y'all. It's time for what? KP's Video News, y'all. KP Video News, y'all.
That's right.
It's time for what?